Well, my wife is a lot different than my mom was. My mom was a teacher, and you had to have a documented fever over 100 degrees. You had to be barfing your guts out. I mean, it had to be a true illness that would have brought the entire school to its knees had she sent you for me to actually miss a day of school. Just never happened. My wife, a lot more lenient. My son knows it. He's always working, my wife, and it's always when I'm not there. So I'll come home in the afternoon. My son's home. I'm like, what are you doing home? Don't you have school? He's like, yeah, you know. And I'm like, so.
Yeah, you know.
I'm like, all right. And I go to my wife. I'm like, why ain't he at school? She's like, oh, they have some kind of testing today. So he's just going to be sitting in study hall. So I didn't think he needed to go today. I was like, all right. You know, so it's said differently. And honestly, God bless my son because, man, I never missed a day. And there would be days where, yeah, a lot of kids would be out. And I'd be the one kid sometimes sitting there in study hall by myself. And it was lonesome some days. And I do agree. There are some days where it's like, okay, why are we even here? It's just, I guess you have to have us here. We're basically the teachers or babysitters really for the day.
Did you ever have perfect attendance the entire year through a good run?
No, I don't think I ever did. No, I did not. I do remember one kid did, and I was like, ugh, goody two-shoes. So even then, I still didn't have perfect attendance. But I didn't miss many. I would maybe miss, I think the worst year I had was I missed 3 days.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's good.
The entire year.
Really good.
Yeah, so I never got the perfect, but I wasn't ever far off. Now, there is a mom here that's defending. When you're getting to the end of school, why are you even sending your kids at all? Do you agree with her? Is there something true to this, or is she way off the mark?
Do you make your kid go to school the last day of school? Do you make your kid go to school the last week of school? I don't make my kids go to school the last couple days of school. I don't see the point. Most of the teachers would rather you keep your kids home anyway, at least around here. My parents, they made us go to school every single day. Every single day. All the way to the very last day of school every year. I have cleaned a lot of desks. That is what we did the last week of school when I was a kid. We cleaned desks and we cleaned classrooms, and I was a professional at cleaning desks. So why? What was the point of sending me to school on the last few days of school? My parents were sending us to school, baby, from the first day to the last day without fail. If we were missing school, it's because we had a doctor's appointment or because we were sick. And when I say we were sick, I mean we had to check out. Like, you had to be throwing up, you had to have a fever, or you had to be doing the other in the bathroom to be able to stay home because you were sick. But I mean, I'm not doing that with my kids. Stay home, baby. It's summertime. Time to go.
Okay, that's what she's saying. So in a sense, you become a janitor when you send your kids to school on the last couple of days because everything is already done. They've planned for this. They can't take it all the way down to the final second because if something doesn't get done, it's not like they'd be like, you know what, we didn't get that finished, so we'll just bring you guys back on Monday.
I know, what a horrible lesson for the kids to learn. Help, clean up the classroom and pack things up and help, be a team. That'd be a terrible lesson to learn.
Yeah, well, they say that in a sense, you're just sending your kids there for a babysitter. If they don't need a babysitter, then let them do something else.
If the kids aren't helping cleaning and they're just sitting there, I think that's when things can get a little crazy.
Yeah, but you never know what each individual class is going to be like. Like, you don't know what the teacher's going to do. You don't know that every teacher's going to make you clean desks. I never cleaned desks.
I did.
You did?
Oh, yeah.
I didn't do that. They didn't have us cleaning desks. They didn't care if we had dirty desks.
No, not a priority for them.
Sometimes you didn't even have desks.
Yeah, one text says, please keep your kids home if you can. Teachers are tired too. The last days are literally just babysitting now. Somebody is vouching for that.
So if you have 2 days left of an elementary school right now, that means there's nothing else going on. There's no homework. There's no lessons, no math quiz.
That was the argument that was given to me. And I had my wife break it down. I'm like, okay, so why is he, because my son didn't go the last day of school. I was like, okay, so why is that? She's like, he's got all of his testing that he had to have done. He would be doing nothing today but just sitting there. And so what is the point? He wants to stay home, sleep in. It's going to be easier on us to try to ship him there just to sit under the care of someone else. So just let him stay home.
I stand with the queen on that.
Huh.
Mm-hmm.
If there's nothing for you to do,
Right.
Why are you going?
Right. Now that's what I always hear. So, and I don't have enough time to go and actually investigate to make sure that the recon I'm getting is actually accurate. You know, it could be a spun a web of lies. I don't know.
Well, how do you feel?
I don't have look, and that's why I don't really push back on. I'm like, okay, well, if what you tell me is true, he's going to be doing nothing but sitting in study hall all day, and he opts not to go in, and it would be easier on teachers to not have to deal with an extra body.
Yeah, if you're hearing from teachers that are telling you keep your kids at home, that's like shocking and wow, okay.
Well, what's he studying? If there's nothing to study, what's study hall for?
Then you're just sitting there and you're just messing around with other kids. And look, if there is a teacher that's trying to get some of her work done before summertime, it would be harder for her to get it done if she's constantly distracted with kids lighting their desks on fire or whatever's going on.
But isn't it different for high schoolers? Because I thought there's probably some kids that have to go to school to pass an exam to see if they graduate or not. I know
some do, and if that's your circumstances, you should be there unless you care to do summer school or not pass on to the next grade.
don't do summer school.
This would be for kids that all of your work is done. There's really nothing else for you to do except show up and sit down, shut up, and then get your attendance taken, and then that's it.
Those spitballs at the teacher. You're
Yeah.
so bored.
So, Bridget, she said, in Broward, my son has been home for a week, and I don't think they're out yet. So she buys into that. So I'm just wondering if more and more parents are kind of feeling that way, that it's a waste, knowing if your kid is done with all the required work to send them. Now, Deanna said, once my kids hit middle school, I always kept my kids home at least the last day, sometimes the last week. That's when all the threats of violence came about. They never did anything anyway except watch movies and play games.
Middle schoolers are the ones that scare me the most.
Yeah. Now, some people were sounding off on this after we saw a mom, of course, on TikTok defending letting her kids skip the final week of school. Now, one text says, it just sounds like a bunch of bull from teachers and kids, LOL. Why do they have school all that time then? Why wouldn't they just not have school? Well, I think they have designated days that they have to be in for a certain amount. And so that's already dictated to them. It's not based on what they have to do. They're told that you've got to be here on this day. And so they are there. But it doesn't mean necessarily, as we're hearing, that they have work for them to do.
The person that texted that in was always the person that reminded, you forgot to give us homework. You forgot to give us homework.
They are about the only person. It's taking that pose. Now, one other text says, St. Lucie County's last day is today, and it's an early out day. What is really going to be going on today? Why even bother sending your kids? And then a couple teachers sounding off. One says, as a teacher who is still working today and tomorrow, I would prefer if the kids stay home. And an elementary school teacher in Broward said, if you're able to keep them home, do it. They aren't even allowed to have their own backpacks the last few days. So there's truly nothing for them to do but watch movies and draw pictures.
Huh.
And I've heard that. And that kind of lends credence to what you're talking about with the increased threats of violence, maybe kids wanting to settle one last score with somebody before they wrap up the summertime. And they're saying that, yes, the backpack is banned in a lot of different counties.
Wow, because they don't want no trouble.
Yeah.
And they know you don't need your books because there's no learning.
Right, exactly.
So, yeah, why are they there?
In a sense, yeah, we might be exposing something here, being like, okay, well, what are we doing? Why are we just doing this dance? Where I guess you just have to be open a certain amount of
That's what it is.
days, but
There's a certain amount of days required by law to get government funding.
yeah, I guess. I'm not a fan of doing things just to do things and do something ceremonially when it's not necessary. Now, I'm sure many parents are like, look, if I don't send my kids to school, I'm glad that at least I have a babysitter to watch them because
and
I'd
that-
have to pay some money for them to be watched then. So I'm happy with it.
And that might be the argument to why you want to send your kid
Yeah.
to school, because you got nowhere else to send them.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
if you've got a young kid or a bad kid,
yeah.
send them to school because they can't be trusted at home by themselves.
And there are some kids that may be the only hot meal that they get a day too. And they say, look, I sent them just to eat. So that could be part of what the reasoning is as well.
Okay.
Yeah, does the cafeteria dial it in during the last couple days of school, or are you
Everybody
still?
just gets a cheese sandwich like they got at the
Yeah.
fire festival.
Well, you think about it. If you were like going on vacation, remember mom would be like trying to cook everything if you're going to be gone for a long period of time. So I'm sure they're just throwing everything from the back of the fridge out there.
You're getting that old turkey tetrazzini from a couple months
Yeah.
ago that's been in the freezer.
The chicken nuggets had all kind of freezer burn on them.
Yeah, it's nuggets they warmed up in September.
I don't think you're getting the best the last couple days.
Yeah, probably not. Probably not. They say in Broward County, students from all grade levels are not allowed to bring backpacks or bags with the exception of lunch boxes.
Wow.
That is through tomorrow when they wrap up. Now, the last day for Miami-Dade isn't until the end of the week, the 5th. Monroe County, you all got to go till June 13th.
Oh.
What is going on in the Keys, man?
June 13th.
June 13th is when they get out.
What the heck? Did they have a bunch of hurricane days or something?
Don't know.
They're laid back in the Keys, so maybe they only go to school for 2 hours.
They
a day.
forgot to go the first 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Oh my
man.
gosh.
Yeah.
It's school?
Whatever, man.
Whatever, man.
Yeah. And somebody else texted in and said, yeah, my daughter's high school principal would send out a message to the parents saying, if you want your kids sitting in study hall all day doing nothing, send them on in. Otherwise, just keep them home.
That's a cool principle.
How about that?
Huh.
The administrators are even encouraging just keep your kid home.
I am learning so much.
Well, if there's no kids there, then you can drink.
Yeah. That's true. Sure.
That didn't stop teachers in my day.
You're right.
This is how we do. It's the KBJ Show.